Welcome back to the Exhaust Note Podcast. I'm Brynn Patton, and this is Jeff. Tell us a bit about what you do at Stahl's Motor and Music Experience.
Well, Brynn, thanks for having me on. I am the executive director of Stahl's Motors and Music Experience in Chesterfield, Michigan, and it is probably one of the top and most premier collection of vintage automobiles and antique musical instruments, and it is an experience. That's a word that's thrown around a lot by a lot of people in this industry, but I don't know that anyone has the experience that we do. That we provide that experience to our visitors. And I'm the executive director. Started here last year, and we are in the process of a 70,000 square foot addition. So everybody hears all the time about museums that are struggling and museums that are closing their doors. We're actually doing the opposite and expanding an additional 70,000 square feet to our campus here in Chesterfield, Michigan, which is just less than 30 miles north of downtown Detroit. So it's very accessible, right off of Interstate 94. Anyone familiar with the metro area of Detroit knows that we talk in terms of the roads. We're at 26 Mile and Gratiot, and people from this area will know exactly where that is. It is an unbelievable. People hear about it and they come and they say, I was told about it, but you can't describe it. It's better than anyone expects. And what happens when they walk in the door? Well, we pride ourselves on being friendly and welcoming, and give them the that great, wonderful Disney World experience of welcome into our world. And we take them into the music room, where we have dozens and dozens of 100-year-old plus musical instruments that play banjos, violins, pianos, that are all most of them vacuum operated. What people had for entertainment 100 and 150 years ago, when there was no television, no cell phones, radio just in its infancy, and this is what they had for entertainment in nightclubs, and then in your home if you could afford it. And so they would sit around and have this player piano and violins that basically provide a concert for you right there in your home. And then they go into where the automobiles are, and it's a walk through time. And these are not just old jalopies. These are extremely rare, very high quality restorations on cars from a 1910 Thomas Flyer, through we have a row of electric vehicles that are all over 100 years old. People think that electric cars are new. This was very common in the teens and 20s. So we have electric cars. We have musical instruments also in the main room of the museum where the cars are. So it's a blend of items, automobiles, and musical instruments that from the turn of the last century. And you work your way through. We have an Auburn cord Dusenberg section. We have some of the rarest and most beautifully restored cars. We have a 1929 DuPont Roadster that is just absolutely amazing. And I could sit here and list the cars. It would take hours just to list all the cars that we have. We have probably one of the nicest Tuckers in existence. We have one of only two working turbine cars. It's a 1963 Chrysler turbine car. Jay Leno has the other one that is a running car. There's only supposedly 9 of them in the world. So we have some really incredibly rare cars that have history and a good story. That's what we like, are cars that have a story. We have a 1925 Doble steam car, one of only 9 Dobles in the world. Jay Leno also has a Doble. And ours is a Roadster, and it was bought new by Howard Hughes. So, I mean, we just not only have these great cars, we have these great stories behind them. And it just goes on. I mean, we have cars all the way through the 30s and the 40s and 50s, 60s. It's a walk through time. We have a Bob's Big Boy display. Those old enough will remember, the big boy on top that would rotate. We have a big boy on top and it rotates, and it's a nice looking diner that's just a step back into a time that doesn't exist anymore. And we are a 501c3, and our mission is to share this, especially with younger people, and to educate younger people like yourself that these are not just automobiles and musical instruments; they're works of art. And people, we see a lot of kids that come in, maybe with their parents or their grandparents or with a school group, and they feel like, oh, we're being drug into this. We don't want to do this. And the minute they hit that music room and start seeing this, it's fascinating. People look at it as if it were some modern technology, and it's 100+ years old, and it blows their mind. And then you walk in, you see these kids walk into the museum and see the cars, and their eyes get really big and their mouth opens up, and that's really what it's all about to us. And every kid that comes in, when they leave, they get to pick a Hot Wheel out of a basket, and they're still in the case. These just like you see at the store, brand new. They get to go through, and you see especially the boys. They're always looking to see all the choices that are there, so that they can pick the coolest one. So every kid that leaves gets a free Hot Wheel. We're open every Tuesday from 1 to 4. We're open the first Saturday of each month from 11 to 4. We're open the third Thursday night of every month for Night at the Museum. We're open for scheduled seminars that we do called Fuel for Thought. The next one is May 27th. So you have to, they're on different nights of the week. So it's not a regular scheduled thing. And we're open for school tours and adult groups. So we had a men's club come in the other day for private tours that they schedule with us. So we're open quite a bit, and it's something that when people come, they're blown away. And then when people come back, I always like to greet people at the door and say, have you been here before? And I say, yes, but my brother hasn't been. I had to bring him. And they're so excited to be able to share it with somebody else. And that's really what it's all about to us.
Yeah. So I looked through your very extensive collection, and obviously we could spend days talking about the cars. But I did pick out a couple questions that I would like to ask about cars you have. So first, you have a Ford Model T Firetruck.
You do.
How is that different from a standard Model T?
Well, it's a Model T chassis and everything, and from the Cal Ford, it's everything, but it has a fire engine body. It's smaller than what you would think of today's a fire engine, but it has a fire apparatus on the body. And Model Ts were notorious. I personally have a Model T delivery truck from 1919. So it's a Model T, but they have a big delivery body truck on it. So they provided chassis to a lot of companies that would develop either fire engines or delivery trucks or what have you. And that one, I'm glad you asked about that one, because that is one of our many kid-friendly vehicles. The kids can get in it and crank the siren, and they get their little fire hat, little red fire chief's hat that they get to take with them. So that's one of our very popular vehicles with kids.
Yeah. So I did also see a 1924 Delage.
Yeah.
So this car does have an interesting story, but for those who might not have heard it, can you tell us a bit about it?
Well, it's an incredible. You almost have to see it. It's an incredible automobile. The woodwork on it is unbelievable. It has a wood body. Looks like a lot like a boat body, if you will. And it was actually the featured car at the Toronto International Auto Fair, which was back in February in Toronto. So it was there for 10 days as the featured vehicle. An amazing work of art.
So how do you some of these cars have undergone restoration, like for example the Hudson Super 6. How do you find parts and restore, 100-year-old car?
Well, we do have cars restored. We have companies that do a restoration for us. We have a Dusenberg being restored at the moment at one shop, for example, and they handle all of that. Most of the cars in our collection we bought done. We have a team that's very good at routine maintenance and mechanical issues, but when it comes to like a full-on restoration, we let somebody else do that. We are building another car that a lot of parts, I mean, a lot had to be handmade and manufactured. It's a car that we will have a huge announcement on in the future. That in most the car, very few. We had some of the car, but a major portion of this car had to be recreated. So that's going to be we're going to have a very huge unveiling sometime next couple of years on that car.
Was there anything in America at the time that really compared to the 1934 Bugatti that you have?
There, that's it. That's a great question, because the Bugatti, being a European car, is sportier and maybe a little quicker than what was being built in America at the time. But then you think of 1934, what Packard was doing right here in Detroit. Large, luxury, fast cars, and Cadillac as well. We have some incredible V16 Cadillacs from that same era, 32 and 33, that I would put up against anything in the world. We have a Marmon 16, the 1931 Marmon 16, that is the quality rivals Dusenberg and maybe even surpasses Dusenberg. So while I think in the U.S. at that time, large luxury American cars, also you had your Ford flathead V8s had come out in 32, so more affordable, but incredibly powerful cars, versus the luxury of that Bugatti. Now, that Bugatti is probably the sexiest car we have in our collection. I think it's just very, very, very sexy.
Another interesting story. So I did see this car at the Audrain Motor Week and Concourse, but tell us a bit about the engine swapped Auburn that you have.
We have the only Auburn Dusenberg, and it is It is an amazing car. So it's an Auburn Boat-tail Speedster that has been lengthened because it has a Dusenberg J engine, which would not fit the engine compartment of Auburn. And an Auburn would, have an 8-cylinder engine would have been huge, but that Dusenberg engine is so much bigger. I think we had I think the body's been lengthened by 12 inches to accommodate that. So it's got a long hood. It's got headlights that have been built into the fenders, kind of like a Pierce Arrow. So it's got a little Pierce influence, Dusenberg influence, and it's an Auburn Boat-tail Speedster, all combined into one. An incredibly rare car that came out of Europe before we got it. So it has spent some time around the world.
Now, this is coming from someone who is not incredibly experienced in such pre-war cars, but one thing I saw that surprised me was a Mack pickup.
Yes.
Why would Mack produce a pickup?
Yes, they're very rare, but they were building obviously big trucks at the time. This is the early and mid 30s, and they thought, hey, let's get into the market. So, and there's a lot of that going on at the time. I mean, there was some collaboration between Ford and Marvin Harrington to build a big 4-wheel drive trucks that Ford couldn't build, so they provided the bodies, and the chassis ends up being like a Marvin Harrington. Well, Mack did all of their own work, but we also have it's very similar to a Rio truck that we also have. They're almost like twins, but yeah, everybody wanted to be into as much of different areas as they could, and Mack had such a great name for big trucks that they made. And this is not a regular size pickup truck. It's a little bit larger even than a normal pickup truck from the mid 30s. And it has that very recognizable Mack Bulldog emblem on the radiator. So it's very neat vehicle. You've picked out some really good ones.
Yeah, thank you. So, the Mysterion, obviously a legendary car.
Yeah.
How do you mate two engines to one transmission?
Well, that car was also featured just a few months ago at Autorama in Detroit, where tens of thousands of people saw it over the weekend. And when you see it, it is amazing. This is an exact. The original Mysterion does not exist anymore. At least that's what everybody believes, that it's doesn't exist. But this car was built exact, and I mean it is so perfect in its build that a lot of people think it is the original car. If you're looking at the front of the car, standing in front of the car, the engine on the left in this car is a non-functioning engine. So it's the engine on the right that is driving the car. And it does run and drive, although you could probably fit in it. I couldn't fit in it. It's very small capsule that you have to get in.
So you did briefly mention that you have one of two running Chrysler turbine cars.
Yes.
So obviously, how do you get a turbine engine to run and propel a car?
The story on the turbine cars is fascinating. Chrysler got in, started fiddling with turbine engines in the 30s. So this is a program that went from the 30s all the way into the 1980s. These turbine engines that they developed ended up even being used in tanks through the 60s and 70s and 80s. Well, in 1963, they built 55, I believe this is the correct number, of these turbine cars, all painted the exact same color. It's kind of a metallic orange, if you will, burnt orange. It's very pretty, very futuristic interior to go along with this very space age, very high tech turbine engine that Chrysler developed. And they used the cars, the 55 cars they sent to dealers all across the country, and people signed up to win the car for a period of time. And over 200 people across the country got to take a turbine car home. I think they got it for 3 months and used it as their personal car. And this program went on for 2 years with those cars. Well, at the end of the time, Chrysler never put the car into production, so they don't have serial numbers, so they couldn't be sold. So they actually destroyed the majority of the cars. 9 of them have survived through mysterious ways. Only a handful are actually in public hands. Like we have one, and Leno has one, and there's one in St. Louis. Chrysler has a couple of them that they've hidden away, but they're really neat cars. And I had the pleasure to, and it sounds like a jet engine. It sounds like you're getting ready to take off when you fire the car up on a jet and on the runway. And I had the pleasure of taking that car to Hilton Head Concours d'Elegance back in November, and we shipped the car down. And so I just flew in, and I used the car as my transportation. So I'm driving to the hotel in the turbine car, and people just just standing on the sidewalk watching the car going by, just blown away because of the sound. Everybody loves that car, and they wave. And a lot of people have stories about the car. Their mother was one of the ones who got to drive the car, or one of their neighbors, or they saw one back in 1963 when they were a kid driving down the road, and they just, they didn't know what it was. And they found out later on, what it was, and it just brings back great memories. So we had a presentation. A fellow wrote a book about the turbine car, and we had him come in here and give a talk, and we had over 200 people come in for that. And at the end of he did a wonderful presentation, about 45 minutes long. And at the end, we fired up the engine car, the turbine car, and we had one guy come, and his dad worked on the project back in the 60s. And he even had little small models of the turbine car that when he was a kid that he still has today. And I said, come and sit in the car. And I let him sit in the car and turn the car on, and he was just tears running down his face. And those are the moments that we cherish, and the reason that we do what we do.
Jeff and I had a great time talking, so there will be a part 2 to this conversation coming out in the following weeks. Stay tuned.